While I was working, my mom and sister stole my $19,700 furniture and replaced it with moldy junk. Said, "You don't need this fancy stuff. Ashley deserves them. More than you do." I made one call and watched their world crumble. Please support this channel by visiting our store. Link in the description box. Well, let's go. My name is Thessaly, 33 years old, and I ran my own interior design company. I also had a blog about interior decor that was doing pretty well. My life looked good from the outside, but my family situation was complicated. Let me tell you about my family. There was my mother, Maribel, my father, Cedric, and my younger sister, Sable. Sable was 3 years younger than me, 30 years old, and she had 2 sons, Caden and Marek. She'd never been married. No husband in the picture at all. She lived in a small house that our grandmother left her when she passed away. Growing up, I was always the invisible daughter. My parents loved Sable more, and they never tried to hide it. When I was 16 and Sable was 13, I saved up money from my part-time job to buy myself a nice dress for the school dance. My mother saw it and said Sable needed a dress for her own dance more than I did. She took my dress and gave it to Sable. When I protested, Dad told me to stop being selfish. When I graduated high school and wanted to go to college, my parents told me I'd have to pay for it myself. They said it would build character, so I worked 2 jobs while going to school full-time. Meanwhile, Sable got a car for her 18th birthday. I was still taking the bus. After college, I got a job at a design firm and started building my career. Sable racked up credit card debt. $1,750 the first time. My parents called me and said, "Family helps family." Paid it. Then it was $2,460. Paid that too. When Sable had her 2 boys, I started sending her $825 every month to help with expenses. $825 every single month for 3 years. And what did Sable do with all that help? She posted vacation photos on Instagram. Beach trips, weekend getaways. Meanwhile, I was eating ramen and saving every penny I could. But things were finally looking up for me. I just bought my first house in the suburbs. It wasn't huge, but it was mine. I'd worked so hard for it. I planned everything carefully. I ordered beautiful furniture for almost $19,700. A gorgeous slate gray sofa for the living room, a glass coffee table and matching side tables, a chic walnut wardrobe, and a beautiful bed for my bedroom. Everything was perfect. I also did some renovation work myself. I repainted the walls in the living room a soft cream color. I did my bedroom in a calm blue-gray. The house was coming together exactly how I wanted it. 2 weeks before my planned housewarming party, I posted about it in the family chat. Mom messaged back immediately. "Can we come see it before the party? I want to see what you've done with the place." I was surprised. Mom never showed much interest in my life. But I said yes. Maybe things were changing. Mom came over with Sable. They walked through the house. Mom made admiring noises, clicking her tongue and touching the walls I'd painted. Sable looked around with this weird expression on her face, like she was jealous or something. She didn't say much. We were standing in the living room when my phone rang. It was the furniture company. "Miss Thessaly, we're calling to confirm delivery tomorrow between 10 and 2. My heart sank. Tomorrow I had a huge meeting with a potential client. Big one. The kind that could really help my business grow. I couldn't reschedule it. "Oh no," I said. "I have an important work meeting tomorrow. Is there any way we could change the delivery day?" "I'm sorry, ma'am. This is the scheduled date. If you're not available, we'd have to reschedule for 3 weeks from now." 3 weeks would be after my housewarming party. I needed the furniture before then. Mom had been listening. "I can take the delivery for you," she said. "Give me a spare key. I'll be here to receive everything." I was so happy. Maybe Mom was finally taking an interest in my life. Maybe she was proud of me. I gave her the spare key right there. The next day I came home from my meeting feeling great. The client had loved my designs. We were moving forward with a big project. I walked into my house and saw my furniture. The gray sofa looked perfect in the living room. The coffee table gleamed. I went upstairs and saw my bed, my wardrobe. Everything was beautiful. I was so excited about the housewarming party that I completely forgot to get the spare key back from Mom. I was busy with work, with planning, with posting sneak peeks on my blog. The days flew by. Friday evening I came home from work exhausted. I'd had back-to-back client meetings all day. I opened my front door and stopped dead. My furniture was gone. The gray sofa wasn't there. Instead, there was this awful sagging couch with stuffing coming out of the cushions. The glass coffee table was gone. In its place was a scratched-up wooden table that looked like it had been dragged behind a truck. I ran upstairs to my bedroom. My beautiful bed was gone. My wardrobe was gone. On the floor was a mattress and a small cot. Both looked ancient. I recognized this furniture. It was from Sable's house. I'd seen it when I'd visited her. My phone buzzed. A message from Sable. It was photos. Caden and Merrick jumping on my gray sofa in Sable's house. The caption read, "Best gift from Sis in forever. The boys are so happy." I stood there staring at my phone. Then it hit me. Mom and Sable had stolen my furniture. While I was at work, they'd come into my house with that spare key and taken everything. They'd replaced it with Sable's junk. I sat down on the living room floor. I couldn't bring myself to sit on that disgusting, sagging couch. My mind was racing. This wasn't the first time. I'd been the family item my entire life. Paid for everything. I helped with everything. And what did I get? Nothing. Not even basic respect. I pulled out my phone and went to Sable's Instagram. She'd posted more photos. Her in my house sitting on my new bed, lounging on my sofa. The caption said she'd bought all this new furniture for her boys. She was taking credit for my stuff. I was shaking, actually shaking with rage. I sat there on the floor for 30 minutes, just breathing, trying to calm down. Then I grabbed my car keys and drove to Sable's house. Sable opened the door, looking calm. Too calm, like she'd been expecting me. "What are you doing here?" she asked. I pushed past her into the house. My furniture was crammed into her tiny living room. The gray sofa was squeezed against one wall. My coffee table was in the middle of the room, barely fitting. Through the bedroom door, I could see my bed and wardrobe. Mom and Dad were sitting on my sofa. They were drinking tea like nothing was wrong. "What the hell is this?" said. My voice was shaking. "That's my furniture." "Tess, calm down," Mom said. She didn't even look guilty. "You live alone in that big house. You don't need all this fancy stuff. Sable has 2 children. They need it more than you do. I paid $19,700 for that furniture. You stole it from my house." Sable laughed. She laughed. She walked over to my sofa and ran her hand across it. "You're a decorator, Thessaly. You can turn my old furniture into vintage art pieces or something. Make it work. That's what you do, right?" I stared at her. She was grinning at me, grinning. "Give me back my furniture now." That's when Caden and Marek came running out of the bedroom. They threw themselves at me, crying. "Aunt Tess, please don't take our sofa," Caden wailed. "We love it so much. Please, please don't." Marek sobbed. I looked at Sable. She was watching her sons with this satisfied smirk. She'd told them to do this, then she'd coached them to cry and beg. She was using her own kids to manipulate me. "Thessaly, look what you've done," Dad said. He stood up from my sofa. "You've upset the boys. You're behaving outrageously. They're crying because of you." "They're crying because of you," I said. "They're crying because Sable told them to." "Don't you dare accuse me of that," Sable snapped. "My boys are genuinely upset. You're trying to take away their furniture." Mom started crying. Real tears. "Thessaly, how can you be so selfish? These are your nephews, your family, and you want to take their things away." Pulled out my phone. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped it. "What are you doing?" Sable asked. Her voice had an edge to it now. "Calling the police." "You wouldn't dare," Mom said. "Watch me." I dialed 911. Mom started screaming at me. Sable was saying I'd regret this, that I was making the biggest mistake of my life. The boys were still crying, though I noticed they were peeking at me through their fingers to see if it was working. 2 police officers arrived 15 minutes later, a man and a woman. They looked at the situation calmly. "What seems to be the problem?" the male officer asked. I showed them the purchase receipts for my furniture. I had everything on my phone. The invoice from the furniture company, the delivery confirmation, my credit card statement showing the $19,700 charge. "This is my furniture," I said. "I bought it for my house. My mother had a spare key to receive the delivery. She and my sister took it and brought it here without my permission." The female officer looked at my parents and Sable. "Is this true?" "It's a family matter," Mom said. "Thessaly doesn't need all this furniture. We were helping Sable." "Did Miss Thessaly give you permission to take the furniture?" the officer asked. Silence. "That's theft," the officer said. "Miss Thessaly, you have 2 options. You can file charges or they can return the furniture immediately." "I want it returned," I said. "You'll need to hire movers," the male officer said to Sable. "We'll supervise to make sure everything is returned to Miss Thessaly's property." "This is insane," Mom screamed. "Thessaly, you're not my daughter anymore. Do you hear me? You're dead to me." Sable was on her phone calling a moving company. Her hands were shaking. Dad was sitting on my sofa with his head in his hands. The movers came an hour later. I watched as they loaded my furniture onto the truck. The sofa, the coffee table, the side tables, the bed, the wardrobe, everything. Mom kept screaming that I was destroying the family. Sable stood in her doorway with her arms crossed, glaring at me with pure hatred. Dad wouldn't look at me at all. I followed the moving truck back to my house. The movers brought everything inside and set it up. When they left, I walked around examining my furniture carefully. There were chocolate stains on the gray sofa, deep scratches on the coffee table that hadn't been there before. My beautiful wardrobe had a dent in one corner. Felt sick. 2 days from now, I had an important photo shoot scheduled. A business partnership with Luxe Shade Interiors, a company that made expensive blinds. We were doing this shoot at my house. They were going to feature my interior design with their products. I called an emergency cleaning service. They came out that night and worked on the sofa for 3 hours. They got most of the chocolate out, but you could still see faint stains if you looked close enough. The next morning, I woke up exhausted. I checked my social media and my stomach dropped. Sable had posted a photo. It was my living room, but with her old sagging couch and scratched table in it. But in the background, you could see the expensive Luxe Shade blinds I'd installed for the photo shoot. The caption read, "Real decorator taste. This is what real influencers choose. Vintage is always better than fake new." She was calling my style fake. She was mocking me. And she was doing it with a photo she'd taken when she and Mom stole my furniture and replaced it with her junk. I immediately called the representative from Luxe Shade, a woman named Jenna Arlo. "Jenna, I need to explain something before you see any social media posts." I told her everything. The theft, the furniture swap, Sable's sabotage post. There was a long silence. Then Jenna said, "Thessaly, we've worked with you for 6 months. We know your style. We know your professionalism. Some bitter family member posting garbage on social media doesn't change that. The photo shoot is still on." I almost cried with relief. The photo shoot happened 2 days later. It was perfect. My furniture was back where it belonged. The Luxe Shade blinds looked amazing. The photographer got beautiful shots of everything. I posted the photos on my blog that evening. Within an hour, I had hundreds of comments. People loved it. They said it was elegant, sophisticated, exactly what they wanted in their own homes. My blog followers went up by 3,000 that week. After the photo shoot success, I sat down at my kitchen table with my laptop and a notepad. It was time to do some math. I opened my bank statements going back 3 years. Every transaction involving my family, every payment I'd made to help them out. I wrote it all down. Monthly support for Sable's children, $825 every month for 36 months. That was $29,700. Sable's credit card debts. The first time was $1,750. The second time was $2,460. But there had been more. Over the years, I paid off $30,900 of her debt. My parents' car insurance. They'd asked me to cover it 5 years ago because Dad had lost his job temporarily. Temporarily turned into permanently. I'd been paying it ever since. $15,400 total. The grand total was $76,000. I stared at that number. Almost $80,000. Money I'd earned. Money I'd given them because they were family. And what had I gotten in return? Stolen furniture and social media sabotage. I typed up an invoice, professional looking like the ones I sent my design clients. I listed every payment with dates and amounts. At the bottom I wrote, "The ATM is now closed permanently." I emailed it to Mom, Dad, and Sable. Then I blocked all their numbers. My Aunt Lorraine called me 2 days later. She was Mom's sister, but we'd always gotten along. "Fess, I heard what happened," she said. "I just wanted you to know I think you did the right thing." Thanks, Aunt Lorraine. Also, your mother and Sable are fighting. Maribel is blaming Sable for the whole thing. Says it was Sable's idea and she just went along with it. Sable is saying Maribel planned everything and she was just following orders. They're screaming at each other every day. I didn't feel sorry for either of them. Good. Are you still having your housewarming party? Yes. Next week. Can I come? Of course. The housewarming party was wonderful. Aunt Lorraine came. Some cousins who'd always been nice to me came. My friends from work came. My business partners came. The house looked beautiful. Everyone complimented my design choices. Mom, Dad, and Sable weren't there. I hadn't invited them. For the next 3 months I got calls from random numbers. When I answered, it was family members begging me to forgive Mom and Sable, to give them another chance, to remember that family is forever. I stopped answering calls from numbers I didn't recognize. Then one Saturday afternoon there was a knock on my door. I looked through the peephole and saw Dad standing there alone. Opened the door. "What do you want?" "Can we talk?" he asked. He looked older than I remembered. Tired. I let him in. We sat in my living room on my gray sofa. The chocolate stains were mostly gone now. "I'm sorry," Dad said. "I'm sorry for everything. For always taking Sable's side. For ignoring you, for letting your mother and sister steal from you." I didn't say anything. "I've been thinking about your whole life," he continued. "How we treated you. Making you pay for your own college while we bought Sable a car. Expecting you to send money to help Sable while she posted vacation photos. Taking your furniture and acting like you were wrong to be upset. You deserved better. You deserved parents who were proud of you. Why are you here now?" "Yes. Because I want to try again. I want to be a real father to you if you'll let me." "What about Mom and Sable?" "They're on their own. I told Maribel I'm not supporting her behavior anymore. I moved into the spare bedroom. We barely speak now. And Sable is struggling without your money. She's working 2 jobs. She's having a hard time." "Good." Dad looked at me. "I don't blame you for feeling that way. I'm not asking you to forgive them. I'm just asking if you'll give me a chance." Thought about it. Dad had always been the quieter parent. He'd gone along with Mom, but he'd never been cruel to me on his own. He'd just been weak. "You can visit," I said. "But just you, not Mom, not Sable. And if you ever pull something like this again, you're done permanently." "That's fair," he said. Dad started visiting every other week. Sometimes alone, sometimes he brought Caden and Marek. The boys were shy around me at first, but they warmed up. I realized they'd been coached by Sable that day. They were actually sweet kids when she wasn't manipulating them. Dad told me Sable had gotten a second job at a retail store. She was focused on the children now, trying to make ends meet. Without my $825 a month, she was barely scraping by. She was working hard to pay off her credit card debts herself this time. "Is she still posting vacation photos?" "Yes." No, she can't afford vacations anymore. 6 months after the furniture incident, my career took off. I signed a huge contract to redesign a house for a famous TV presenter from a local channel. The job paid incredibly well and led to more high-profile clients. I used the money to remodel my own house. New kitchen cabinets, updated bathroom, a gorgeous home office, everything I dreamed of. I also signed lucrative contracts with several decor brands. They wanted to feature my designs in their marketing. My blog followers grew to over 50,000. The photo shoot with Luxe Shade Interiors made it into Better Homes and Gardens magazine, a full 6-page spread. After that, Luxe Shade offered me a long-term business partnership. I designed spaces featuring their products, and they'd pay me a percentage of sales from customers who mentioned my blog. I also started dating. His name was Jalen, an architect I'd met through work. He was respectful, kind, and understood boundaries. When I told him about my family situation, he didn't pressure me to forgive them. He just supported my decisions. I still saw Dad regularly. He was proud of my success. He brought the boys over sometimes and they played in my backyard, but I never reached out to Mom or Sable. My life was better without them in it. A year after the furniture incident, my life looked completely different. Better, happier, more peaceful. My house had become exactly what I'd always wanted it to be. The remodel was finished, and it was stunning. Every room reflected my style. Clean lines, calm colors, beautiful furniture that nobody had stolen or damaged. I'd even added a sunroom off the back where I could sketch design ideas while looking out at my garden. My business was thriving. The contract with the TV presenter had opened doors I'd never imagined. I was getting calls from people all over the state wanting me to design their homes. My rates had tripled and I was still booked solid for the next 6 months. The partnership with Luxe Shade was going strong. We'd done 3 more magazine features together. Each one brought in more clients and more followers to my blog. I was making more money than I'd ever thought possible. Jalen and I had been together for 8 months now. He'd moved some of his things into my house, though he still kept his apartment. We were taking it slow. He respected that I needed time and space after everything with my family. He never pushed, never demanded. He just supported me. Dad came over for dinner once a week now. Sometimes Jalen would cook and the 3 of us would eat together. Dad and Jalen got along well. They talked about architecture and design and sports, normal stuff, easy stuff. Dad brought Caden and Merrick over every other weekend. The boys were 9 and 7 now. They were doing okay. They didn't talk about their mother much when they were with me. Dad said Sable was still working 2 jobs. Still struggling. Still living in that small house grandmother had left her. She asks about you sometimes, Dad told me one evening. We were sitting on my deck drinking coffee. Jalen was inside watching a game on TV. I don't care, I said. I know. I just thought you should know she's aware of how badly she messed up. She's aware she got caught. That's different. Dad nodded slowly. You're probably right. I didn't ask about Mom. Dad didn't volunteer information about her. That was fine with me. As far as I was concerned, Maribel didn't exist anymore. My Aunt Lorraine came by regularly too. She'd always been the good one in Mom's family, the reasonable one. She told me other relatives had started reaching out to her, asking about me, asking if I was okay. Some of them had figured out that Mom and Sable had been in the wrong. Your cousin Janessa wants to reconnect, Aunt Lorraine said one day. She said she's sorry she believed your mother's version of events. Maybe, I said. I'll think about it. I was selective now about who I let into my life. I'd learned that lesson the hard way. Blood didn't mean automatic access. People had to earn their place. My blog had grown to over 102,000 followers. Brands were reaching out to me for partnerships. I'd hired an assistant to help manage all the requests. My little side project had turned into a significant income stream. The Better Homes and Gardens spread had led to an offer to write a book about accessible interior design tips for regular people on regular budgets. I'd signed the contract last month. The advance was generous, and the publisher was excited about the project. Jalen proposed to me on a Sunday morning in my sunroom. Nothing fancy, no big production, just him and me and coffee and the morning light coming through the windows. Said yes. We planned a small wedding, just close friends and the family members who'd stood by me. Dad would walk me down the aisle. Aunt Lorraine would be there. My cousins who'd supported me, my business partners, my real friends. Not Mom, not Sable. I didn't even consider inviting them. The wedding was in my backyard 6 months later. It was perfect, simple and elegant, and exactly what we wanted. Dad cried when he walked me down the aisle. He told me he was proud of me, that he should have said it years ago. Caden and Merrick were ring bearers. They took their job very seriously, walking slowly and carefully with the rings on small pillows. After the ceremony, they ran around the yard with the other kids, happy and carefree. Jalen and I honeymooned in Italy. 2 weeks of art and architecture and amazing food. When we got back, we started house hunting for something bigger, a place we could design together from the ground up. I heard through Dad that Sable had seen photos from the wedding on social media. Someone had posted pictures and tagged me. Sable had called Dad crying, saying she should have been there, that she was my sister. "What did you tell her?" asked. "I told her she made her choices and now she has to live with them," Dad said. Smiled. Dad had come a long way. A year after the wedding, Jalen and I moved into our new house. It was beautiful. We designed most of it ourselves. Big windows, open floor plan, a studio for me, and an office for Jalen. Room for the family we were planning. My business had expanded. I had 3 employees now. We were doing commercial projects as well as residential. My book had been published and was selling well. I was getting invited to speak at design conferences. Sometimes I drove past Sable's small house. I never stopped. I just noticed it in passing. The paint was peeling. The yard was overgrown. Her car, the one Dad had bought her years ago, was in the driveway looking old and worn. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel sorry. I just felt nothing. She'd tried to take what was mine. She'd tried to sabotage my success. She'd spent years using me as her personal bank account. And when I'd finally stood up for myself, she'd acted like I was the villain. Now she was working multiple jobs to survive. Now she understood what it was like to earn everything yourself. Now she knew what I'd gone through while she'd been posting vacation photos. Bought with my money. I had everything I'd worked for. A successful business, a beautiful home, a partner who respected me, a relationship with my father on my own terms. Sable had what she'd earned, exactly what she deserved, and I was completely fine with that. My life was mine now. Fully and completely mine. Nobody was taking anything from me ever again. That was the real happy ending.